Hi, I'm Chris Favre. I'm the Web Content Manager for CFE Media and Technology. And today I'll be discussing the impact of high global warming potential GWP refrigerants and how companies, cities, and countries are being mandated to change to more eco-friendly options. Now, this has been in the making for several years, and for many, they're getting very close to crunch time, which leads to the question, what happens now? John Keating, the Vice President and General Manager for Stationary Refrigerants at Honeywell, will address some of those issues affecting manufacturers and contractors and what the future looks like. Thank you for joining me today, John.
Thanks, Chris. Happy to be here.
All right, so in that spirit of, we're getting down to crunch time, legislation around refrigeration and refrigerants is a very complicated and fast-moving process, with the industry talking about phase down of high GWP refrigerants for a few years now. To start off, what's the latest developments and how will it affect manufacturers and contractors?
Sure. So in the US, as legislation begins to increase, we believe at Honeywell, our Solstice HFO refrigerants can be a safe, energy efficient, and economic alternative to the existing high GWP HFCs that are in the market. This in particular, 2024 is going to be an important year, in particular because the AMAC has a 40% reduction. And also the industry is transitioning away from 410A, which is a high GWP product, to a lower GWP product in 454B for a lot of residential, light commercial, and commercial applications. The other big interesting change this year too is the latest and greatest refrigerants like Solstice 454B is an A2L, which is a mildly flammable refrigerant, which is a little bit different than traditionally what we've had with 410A. So a lot going on, a lot of exciting things, but certainly we're spending a lot of time trying to educate our partners as to all these changes that are coming.
And some of these new refrigerants like A2L that are coming into vogue and are being more commonplace. Can you describe how these are going to be better for users?
Yeah, I'd say certainly there's a couple things. First and foremost, as you kicked off the conversation today, the new HFO technologies that are coming out in our Solstice brand, we offer lower GWP alternatives. So if you think about 410A, that's been in the market for a long time, that's got a GWP of 2088. The new refrigerants that are going to be replacing it, for example, 454B, has a GWP of 466. So much, much better overall for the environment. The second big improvement or benefit is going to be the newer HFO refrigerants tend to be more energy efficient. So once they're put into equipment, the actual owners and operators of the equipment are going to see added benefits of lower energy bills. So you're really helping the environment on a couple of different fronts.
Right. And, another big aspect of that are hydrofluorocarbons or HFCs. And what should companies be thinking about as they start to make that transition away from them? And, what are some of the concerns they've brought up to you and just from what you've seen in general?
Yeah, I think the big thing now is it's more about your total sustainability story or your total sustainability goals. In the past, people were focused on GWP. Now, when it comes to refrigerant, you have a lot of added extra benefits of these newer HFO technologies. And for us, it's trying to educate owners and operators and people as you're thinking about equipment. GWP is certainly an important thing to consider, but don't overlook the added benefit of energy efficiency as well, because you get a much bigger bang for your decisions these days on your total ESG picture that you're trying to solve for.
Right. Yeah. With ESG and sustainability being a major driver, not just in with HFCs and GWP, but just, in buildings as a whole, everywhere you can save a dollar or $10 or whatever it is critical. And, it's become an expectation for, a lot of people these days.
One other thing I'd add too is with these new HFO technologies, we're seeing a lot of people consider heating applications and not just cooling.
Hmm.
Traditionally, when folks think about refrigerants, you tend to think, I want to cool my office building, I want to cool the factory. With the improvements in heat pump technologies, and now with the new HFO technologies that marry really well with the new heat pump designs, building owners can now get significant improvements with heating their building using our HFO technologies as well in cooling. So folks are actually considering reversible chillers to replace boilers in a building, to eliminate fossil fuels altogether. So I think that's an interesting change for the market. It's not just about cooling these days, it's heating and cooling.
Yeah, and and doing it in a smarter, more savvy way. And I know at AHR Expo at McCormick last week, we heard a lot about that, being smarter and using that to make your buildings, AI savvy and, to use that into sustainability. So it seems like there's a lot of moving parts here, in line with, the mandates that are coming down to try and, make this a better experience all the way around.
It is, and you hit on something, and I know today's the conversations around our refrigerants. Honeywell's at the forefront of that building technology, and we were at
Yeah.
HRI. We've had a number of our business automation businesses there, and we think again, we've got some really neat, creative, total solutions for the market. It's not just about installing our low GWP refrigerants, but it's this, total building management software that can really optimize everything in the building to help really improve overall sustainability and help lower costs for the operators.
We talked a little bit about, Solstice 454B and, talking about some of the key benefits it can provide as an alternative to R4110A, which has been a standard for a long time. How does it address customers' concerns around some of the latest EPA regulations that are coming into effect?
Yeah, well, the great news is from an equipment supplier standpoint, 454B has very similar overall properties to 410A. So there's very little change to the actual equipment itself. So from an operator or building owner standpoint, the equipment's going to look and operate very similar to what they've been used to, which is great. The positive too is you now have a much lower GWP solutions with these new HFO solutions, of which 454B is. So from an actual owner operator, there should be minimal if no change in terms of what they would be expected to use and how things operate. They're just going to get the added benefit of they're just better for the overall environment.
Right. Yeah, from a consumer standpoint, that's always a big plus if you have to change as little as humanly possible, within your day-to-day operations. You don't have to rip things out or, make significant changes, that helps in the long term with their cost benefits.
And that's exactly it. And you might have seen we had a press release come out
Mhm.
about our partnership with Multistack. And Multistack is a global chiller manufacturer, a lot of which gets used in commercial applications. And we've been working with them for years. And, we think our Solstice 454B is a perfect application for both their heating and cooling opportunities or applications. And again, they chose us because of the added benefit of it's minimal change on their design of new equipment. And for the owner operator, it's minimal changes to how they expect the equipment to run.
Yeah. Kind of looking a little bit into the future here, there's been a lot of changes in the last several years with, the technology and the mandates coming down. From a technology perspective, though, are there things you'd like to see change with GWP refrigerants, or what are you hoping will happen in the next few years, as another kind of breakthrough from a technology standpoint?
Yes, I think in the near term, we're certainly really supportive of the legislation that's been enacted so far. We think it makes a lot of sense for the industry. We think it makes a lot of sense for the globe and having this be a better and safer place for us today and for our future inhabitants. And we're happy to have played a small part in that in some of our new technologies. As we look towards the future, Honeywell over the past, decade has invested over $1 billion in R&D to try to come up with new solutions. And you're seeing the results of that investment now with our Solstice 454B. When you think about sort of commercial or sort of residential applications, we're working on the next generation HFOs. For instance, on chillers, we think beyond 454B, our Solstice 515B or our Solstice ZE are going to be the next evolution as there's a need for lower and lower GWP. So certainly we're well placed today to have industry solutions. We're continuing to invest and develop new things in the near term. We think we've got some great new products that'll get the GWP at 150 or below, which we think is exciting.
Yeah. And it sounds like, you're going for the total solution, not just, one part of it. You're trying to, cover like the broad spectrum of the entire solution in what you're trying to do from a building and building standpoint, whether it be commercial or residential.
That's just it. We want to give OEMs the greatest options possible, right? We have solutions that'll meet the regulations today in Solstice 454B. If an OEM or a business owner wants to go even below that to sort of future-proof them, we work with the OEMs today, and there's, less than 466 GWP solutions in the market, be it, systems that run on Solstice 515B or ZE or ZD. So, it just depends on how low do you want to go and how quickly do you want to get there, and we're ready to go.
Yeah. And finally, for those who haven't quite, made that first step, that first decision, they just don't know what to do. What would you recommend they do as like a first step to get on that path, to, being more sustainable and being more energy efficient with GWP refrigerants?
Yeah, look, selfishly, I'll give a plug to Honeywell. Give us a call. We've got really great technical resources. We're happy to sort of be your first port of call to help answer questions around what the regulations are or what people should be thinking about. Another great source is to talk to your local HVAC repair people or service company that you're working with. And certainly talking to the OEMs are a great source of information as well. I think, the more information you can gather from more sources, the better informed decisions that you can make. The great news is with Honeywell, we partner with a lot of global OEMs, and our Solstice solutions are readily and widely available today. But I think the more information you can get, talking to Honeywell, talking to your local distributor, talking to your OEMs, and lastly, talking to your contractors, I think you'll get a lot of great information there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the key. Knowledge they say is power, and especially with some of these regulations and standards, having it spelled out, I think in a concrete and concise way, will go a long way to helping those who are still either on the fence or not sure what they should do.
Yeah. And look, I'd say, as you've said, this is a pretty dynamic year with the regulations changing. You've got the OEM switching. I would argue this isn't the time to just sort of Google something and take Google for face value. This is a really important time. You want to talk to people in the industry because things are moving quickly, and you want to make sure you've got the latest information. And that's why Honeywell's here, to provide the latest information we can for the market.
Yeah. Well, thank you, John, for taking the time to answer these questions today and providing some insight on what the future does hold for GWP refrigerants and what the next few years may look like. So I appreciate your time today.
No problem. Thanks, Chris. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Likewise. And if you enjoyed today's video, you can find additional videos on our YouTube channel at CSE Mag, where we have additional interviews with thought leaders on many different topics relating to consulting specifying engineers. So I hope you'll take a look and check those out. And I'm Chris Favreau, the Web Content Manager for CFE Media and Technology. Thank you for watching this video.